Few nations have suffered under alien domination as much as Ireland. Harsh laws, poverty, emigration, the denial of education to the masses. To all this must be added the plight of the language. Patrick McCarthy is a farmer in County Clare.
I'd say about 1870, I'd say, my ancestors came here. The first man, McCarthy man that came here, he was a head school teacher. They called on that time schoolmasters. Well, he taught school, which side he came, but he taught on the roadside. He was a head school teacher, a head schoolmaster, they called him. And he was supposed to be, of course, there was a price in his head, if you'd like. And he was disguised, I believe. He came along down them roads. He could have been maybe a month or two coming up from Cork. At that time, you know, there were 100 houses in this valley, which are today there are only 9 houses. After the famine, the immigration started. The immigration started here, I'd say. It started here about 1835. And they continued then to move out of here. There were 8 families here, 7 families of McCarthy's living here. They lived everywhere down along here, or they lived up here above. And they started moving out, you see, and they went. The most peculiar thing, all the families went to the west coast of America.
Mary can do the guitar, Nadine is doing the piano. Oh yes, well Patrick is very good singer. Okay. Sometimes they all sing together around the piano.
Job problem because the post is very late, you see, this time of the year.
Oh, yes.
I mean, the postman, you see, here.
You can, yes.
Well, with
Can
all
you
the
pass
cards,
out
you know,
milk, Mary?
he can't
Yes,
collect,
cup of milk.
see, he can't collect all the stuff.
O'Connor's is pub in Doolin. Well, people go there every night. Most nights for a drink, and then they end up and have a social evening, you know. People go in there and have a drink and meet their friends and that, and you sit down and you listen to all this Irish music.
How many cows did you get?
Well, they're all dry now.
It's a lullaby.
Elle a 100 ans.
It's about 100 years old.
Et elle est la plus grande des harpes irlandaises.
The Irish harp was very large in size.
Et avant Jésus-Christ, il y en avait des
It
harpes.
existed even before
Elle
Jesus
n'était pas
Christ,
triangulaire.
but was not triangular as now.
Je dois dire,
Our
n'est-ce pas,
harp,
que
I should
la
say,
harpe,
is a
c'est
national
notre
emblem.
National, c'est notre instrument national.
It is our national instrument.
C'était vraiment merveilleux de voir 3000 bardes et joueurs de harpe.
It's wonderful to think that there were 300 bards and harpers at Tara
C'était même au commencement du
in the 1st, 2nd and 3rd centuries.
2e siècle, 3e siècle. Les musiciens étaient très importants.
Musicians were very important people in those days.
Les harpistes avaient le rôle important. Ils étaient toujours assis aux côtés de la reine.
They always sat next to the Queen.
Quelque chose, oui. Mais après, il y avait
Then the Danes
les Danois, les Normands,
and later the Normans
les ennemis.
were our enemies, but it was the English who, as it were, came to stay.
Il y avait des lois.
There were laws against the Irish.
Il n'y avait plus d'aristocratie.
The Irish nobility was liquidated.
Plus des écoles.
No education,
Alors,
nothing.
le musicien qui
Musicians, so highly educated before,
était éduqué avant, il était toujours éduqué, mais
now had to
il a
struggle
fallu,
like
n'est-ce
everyone
pas,
else.
aller par chercher sa vie, n'est-ce pas, par les chemins, etc.
O siarna harino gdigan nosto le korogar nire pathe la puka na bukli buidem ta fras akte grusha roigi Då
For us, the Irish aristocracy was finished after the Battle of Kinsale in 1601. But I understood that later Queen Elizabeth I, her, yes, she was a musician. She knew well the importance of music. In England, she was known as a musician. But for us, she gave orders that all harps be burned. Why? Because the harpers knew how to inspire people against their enemies. We don't say harpist, but harper. And it was the men who played the harp.
Mais c'est perdu la technique qu'ils avaient. Et c'est ça que disait, si je me permets de dire, que Sean O'Riordan, qui était vraiment...
Sean O'Riordan was really a great musician.
Et lui, il voulait bien...
He wanted to rediscover the true technique of the harpers.
Que jouaient les vieux harpistes. Et c'est ça, avec les ongles...
Who played with their fingernails, from the top to the base. Sean O'Riordan was a true innovator.
Il s'est marié d'abord. Ils avaient passé beaucoup de temps à Paris, mais depuis...
With his wife and children, he went to live at Cooley, near Cork.
Installé à Cooley, à Cork. Il a vraiment produit...
He composed Irish music in the great tradition.
Sans détruire.
He wanted to live in a part of the country which had retained its old ways.
La racine du pays.
That is to say,
c'est-à-dire le cœur
the hearts
le sang
and blood of the people.
Le peuple.
The most important things of all.
Le plus important.
And this one was taken in Connemara, where he was taken out by two friends of ours in a curragh. And this one was taken in the studio in Television when he was doing a programme. He was playing something there for Sean O'Morga, who's the director. This one is with Ceoltóirí Comhairle on stage somewhere. All of them. I don't know who the fellow on the front is. That's Sean O'Shea, of course, yes. This one is taken, of course, with the president of the country, Mr. De Valera. He had this thing about, proving himself in terms of the classical tradition, and he was when we left the university was given the job in Radio Ireland, and then he left that and we went to France for a year. We came back home and he began freelancing for a while, and then he got a job at the Abbey Theatre as music director. There was a small theatre orchestra there at the time, and he was directing this. And one play was put on by a man called Brian McMahon, who was quite a well-known writer. He wanted Irish traditional music to be done for this play. Now, the little chamber orchestra was not suitable for this because they were all classical players, so Sean began to look around for traditional players. And he found some and brought them together, and they began coming out to our house in Galloping Green, where we lived at the time, to practice for this. And he also had written a play himself, which he used Irish traditional music in. And out of these two groups of musicians, he formed Ceoltóirí Comhairle, which subsequently went on to do concerts and radio programs. And that was the beginning of his interest in, you know, his coming back to his traditions and his roots. And after, also in the house, you know, we used to have these ceilidhs, and people used to come, apart from musicians, there would be singers and people who danced and people who told stories, and, you know, the whole traditional thing. A lot of the Gaeltacht people who were living and working in Dublin used to gather in this house every Sunday night. And that was the beginning of his association again, his, you know, picking up the themes again of the tradition which he had as a boy. And then eventually we decided that Dublin wasn't for us either, and we decided to go back and, you know, do the thing right, go the whole hog and throw ourselves in with the Gaeltacht. So we searched around, and we were lucky enough to get a house here in Coolay. He discovered then that he was related to a lot of people around here, you know, which was kind of a help, I suppose. Perhaps? Yes, Diarmuid, exactly, from his grandmother, I think.
Yes, I think.
The main part of it is vocal, the songs in Irish, the big songs, many of which can be traced back, you know, 4 centuries, 5 centuries in their origins. It involves a very highly complex linear ornamentation, so that people hearing it for the first time think that it sounds, you know, like Arabic music or Persian music. There is not a European classical music tradition in this country. There is, on the other hand, a highly developed traditional music, which, because it's orally transmitted, must not be considered essentially as folk music. For example, in the Orient, you have music which is orally transmitted but is still highly developed. You have the court music of Japan, for example, and the Korean novices music, that kind of thing. Here we also have highly developed traditional music, very complex, very sophisticated, but it's more Oriental than Western. You know, there wasn't much interchange right between us for perhaps a year, but then he, as Diarmuid said, began to get to know them. I mean, when he used to go to the pub and he'd meet them there and he'd talk to them, and, you know, they began to find out, as Diarmuid said, that they were, you know, that he was one of them also.
At the beginning, he just came in here to the people. He was a stranger, And then they discovered that he was one of themselves, really. And he started this. He brought a number of the local people together who were singers. Formed the choir. It was at a time of change in the church. The idea was to get the people to participate more in mass, and this was one way in which it was done, by getting them to sing the mass. So he composed a mass in this tradition for the people of the area.
Sean O'Riordan's children sing in their parish choir, with, today, Pada, the eldest son, at the harmonium. Sean O'Riordan died in October 1971. He was 40 years old. The Pipers Club in a working-class area of Dublin. Owen Dignan, with his bagpipes, who played at Cooley an evening or so earlier. In the 17th century, the Irish took to meeting, often illegally, to play their music. a form of secret scripture for an oppressed people. Saturday evenings towards midnight, this unique club comes alive in an atmosphere of almost religious fervour as members and visitors share a common passion, Irish music.
This song is a song about a lady called Biddy Mulligan.
The Dubliners, the most popular musical group in Ireland, who began their careers in the pubs of Dublin. Their wide repertoire specialises in drinking songs. The Irish are proud of their whiskey. They invented it.
You may travel from there to the county Kildare, from Dublin right back to Macroom. And where would you see a fine widow like me, Biddy Mulligan, the bride of the coast? I'm a scrap of a widow and I live in a place in Dublin that's known as the coast. Me comfort and ease, you know, king could excel, though me palace consists of one room. Me Patrick's me corner for 35 years, I stood me stall, that's no lie. And while I stood there was no one would dare to say
Mountjoy Prison, Dublin, December the 8th, 1922, 5 a.m. My dearest mother, the time is short. Much that I would like to say must go unsaid, but you will understand. In such moments, heart speaks to heart. At 3:30 this morning, we, Dick Barrett, Rory O'Connor, Joe McKelvey and I, were informed that we would be executed as reprisals. Welcome be the will of God, for Ireland is in his keeping, despite foreign monarchs and treaties. Liam Mellows. Called Tory Lion are non-professionals. They are in demand everywhere and give concerts all over the country. A group following in the wake of Sean O'Riordan.
I first got to know these tunes when a travelling musician from Galway, from Peterswell in County Galway, called Joe Cooley, came to County Clare when I was very young. And he's one of the many musicians who had to emigrate because he couldn't earn a living in Ireland.
Tony McMahon performs before an audience of students at the National University of Ireland, Dublin. A recently formed group, the Planxty, play here in what might be called the O'Riordan style.
And he was going to try with the drum through on the second part, and then drop out for Don't try now.
When I come in, yes.
That's you starting.
Yeah, and then you come in where you normally come in.
Yeah, and
then
you hold the drum.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I drop out when Don comes in.
Fair.
So we take it from the... Yeah, leave the
top again.
Fair enough.
Without any further ado, here's Plankstein.
Well, hello. How you doing?
Who was that there? No knock on the window pane. Who was that there? No knock on the window pane. Who was that there? Knock on the window pane. Oh, and leave me, says Coon, dear, don't come and in it to me. Coon, dear, don't come and in it to me. Coon, dear, don't come and in it to me. Mrs. Jackson, says Coon.
For years and years, Irish people have been listening to a kind of Irish American music, which is manufactured just, I suppose, for people to dance to. And they're realizing now that the music that has been there long before that is much better to listen to.
Who was that there? No ticking the toes of me. Who was that there? No ticking the toes of me. Who was that there? Ticking the toes of me. Oh, and leave me, says Coon, dear, don't come and in it to me. Coon, dear, don't come and in it to me. Coon, dear, don't come and in it to me. Mrs. Jackson, says Coon.
People have become interested in their own traditional music. Why it happens now and why it didn't happen 5 years ago, I don't know.
Who was that there? No ticking the size of me. Who was that there? No ticking the size of me. Who was that there? Ticking the size of me. How many me says Coon, dear, don't come and in it to me. Coon, dear, don't come and in it to me. Coon, dear, don't come and in it to me. Maybe I couldn't say Coon. Some taking to 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 lama some taking to some taking to some taking to lama tai to some taking to how to tai to some taking to lama some taking to tai to blacksmith tortured me 9 months and better. He fairly won my heart, wrote me a letter. With his hammer in his hand, he looked quite clever. And if
the blacksmith is one of the most popular folk figures for some unknown reason, I don't know. It's a song which relates the passionate love a woman had for a man called Paugin, who was apparently an awful playboy, and he was knocking around with another woman at the time, and this woman was obviously very annoyed at this and describes how she can't wait to get her hands on the other woman, and how she can't wait for Paugin to get his hands on her.
Centroje nach mische centroje nach mische bandpointin. Centroje nach mische sanvane tage vakantia. Och oi mische cirkana klagane sartin bebelen op oida. De vrani mes chapri na poina gapekan ta vekin bandpointin. Centroje nach mische centroje nach mische bandpointin. Centroje nach mische sanvane tage vakantia. Gamrish sarva khase gamrish sarva khase van pojin. Gamrish sarva khase gamrish sarva khase takrava. Centroje nach mische centroje nach mische van pojin. Centroje nach mische sanvane tage vakantia.
I used to work in a bank, and I left the bank and started playing. I've been playing for about 8 years now.
I was teaching. Well, that's way back. I was an actor at one point, but I've been singing for I suppose about 12, 13 years.
In the beginning I went to the famous piper and pipe maker Leo Rosso and spent a couple of years learning with him. And after that I learned, you know, from getting to know other pipers. Willie Clancy in County Clare.
At a time when the pipers were forbidden to play in Ireland, they invented this soft-toned instrument, not as loud as the water pipes, you know.
By who?
Forbidden. By our friends across the border here. My mother, she was a Sourish piper by trade. And a great warrant at it. I learned it from the mother.
We're going to play two reels. The first one's called Willie Clancy's Favourite, and
Some days after the filming of this sequence, Willie Clancy died. He was 51 years old. At his funeral, the choir from Cooley sang O'Riordan's Mass.